How many is this doing at one time? The $9,000?
What's that?
It's just for printing off T-shirts or like apparel?
It's like apparel printers. They're using it there as part of their learning program overall.
The entrepreneurial class.
It's the entrepreneur class, so they're doing, they're printing T-shirts and that, they're actually reselling them. Other places as well. And for our own apparel. So they'll have the PH logo on those things. Actually, it's being a lot cheaper for us to do ourselves than it is with other companies today.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the plan. We could do stuff
We can
in-house
do
now.
we have a lot of things in-house with it as well, correct.
Okay.
And that's pretty much everything I have. Any other questions?
Nope, that's good.
Thank you.
The small pool update, so there was a little hang up.
Sorry, didn't this have to go through like zoning? We paid him money.
Right, but before we can do that, we have to get permission from Duquesne. Like, if it was just his property, there was no easement, then we would already be, everything needed to go through like the zoning and approval. They won't do that until Duquesne Lake gives us the green light to actually use that, use the land. Yeah. Because according to municipality is, they usually require about 20 feet
Mm-hmm.
easement.
Yeah.
But we have to be 15 feet off of Astor Street, off the property line, 15 feet off of Salzburg, which is right in the middle of that easement. So Duquesne Light says we can't put it there, we can't put it there. Because there would be nowhere else on that corner that, and they're reviewing it to see, but they still may give us the okay to do it, but we have to get that okay from Duquesne Light. Once it gives the okay, then we can go back to the municipality with the okay from Duquesne Light and then start all the, like, the actual process.
Well, with their permission, do we even have to pay, I mean, isn't it technically Duquesne Light's slice of? Okay, so we would still have to, okay, he still owns that.
Under their zoning ordinance, they're gonna have regulations about signs, so they, you still have to go through, planning or
Okay.
zoning, depending on what you're asking for.
Okay.
Any questions on any of the project? All right, a few things we're asking for approval for. Approval to a change order to the Linton Middle School HVAC and upgrades at a cost of $392,000 to be paid from capital budget. This is to do the structural repair and reinforcement to the large freezer floor. Right now that floor is damaged. It's not in use. They're using just for fun to get the whole back end. The supports on it are rusted, rotted out. It's a safety concern. So we're looking to get that repaired and use again.
Was this already budgeted, or this is a new?
It's in the capital.
But we didn't pre-allocate it as part of the capital. So I know there's a lot of projects that we,
If you open the thing, it was budgeted for $6-something million or something like that, and this is gonna increase it to by 300,000,
well, 400,000, 392, 500.
400,000.
This is something we've been discussing for about 2 years now.
Well, I know it's part of all the larger projects. I didn't know if this was a surprise thing added in. Okay. Okay.
Well, it was a surprise that they have to do additional work to get it up to where they need to do. So it's a 400,000 additional
So it is a
to the
$400,000
original estimate.
Okay. Okay.
We are requesting approval to use the audio. The last thing, we are requesting approval to enter into a 5-year service agreement with Upstein Mechanical for the new high school and elementary chillers that were installed over the summer. The total cost of the service will be broken over 5 years. Year one is a free warranty that we got with the new chillers. The second year will be $34,145.10, and that's broken in 12 payments. You know how to get that, so each additional year, there's a small increase, it was very little. This is gonna, include scheduled service 3 times per year, we'll come out, we'll do a maintenance on it, PM work, a complete inspection in the spring, it covers preventive maintenance, including cleaning, aligning, calibrating, lubricating, refilling, cost of parts and labor.
Okay.
I support this 100%. If we had a service agreement previously, when the new ones would have put in, we wouldn't have been in the shape that we'd have to replace these things. So it was,
Still have any questions?
One quick question. Do we think that the bathrooms in Linton will be done before like the spring play?
When's the spring play?
What is that, normally like April-ish?
It's in, February, into March,
Oh, February, March?
We believe it's not gonna be a long project.
Okay. Just because we have a lot of people in the building at that time and
Yeah,
be great.
I would like to say yeah, but we have a breakdown of the time frame, so I can look into it, but yeah, it's not a long project once we actually get it started.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have one quick, the Linton tree work, I think it was brought up before about them doing courtyard work. Was it same, Bigliotti's to do the courtyard for a cost? Like $40,000 or something that we were gonna come back at? Okay, and I know the Bob Project did say they would help out and de-weed some stuff too as a service project that we could do with kids too for hours for volunteer activities and service. So just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, thanks.
and other items that are at the forefront of our information and students' discussion. And so it's interesting, they even talk about some of the items that we do in school. For example, instead of having a new school room, we have new directions. So they talk about those kinds of things as well.
Do we have a debate club in middle school? Okay, but you do debates every Tuesday, you said, in social
Thursday,
studies?
Social studies class, they debate one side of the issue or the other, and then they write about it in their ELA class on Fridays.
And that's in 8th grade?
That's in all grades.
All grades?
All grades.
Every Thursday they have a
It's
debate?
throughout the whole building.
Okay.
Everybody does it. Everybody uses those 5 words all week long. We use them on the morning announcements. I will use them when I talk to students, and if I hear students using them, I'll give them big red bucks, those kinds of things.
Yes. Do we have a debate club in the high school?
I have no idea.
There's a
I
student
don't
that
think
is
so.
looking to get one started now, from what I understand, but there hasn't been one
No,
late this year.
there hasn't been one for years.
I think that's a really good skill to have, debating one another, and that's how you learn a lot of material. So that was just really nice to hear when you said that.
Yeah.
Um,
Huh?
Yeah, we had it years ago. Yeah.
On centers, we continue to work on student grouping in centers, differentiation ideas to incorporate in our curriculum. So we did some Flamingo items. We also did some professional development on online tools to get ready for PSSAs in April, since we have to do them online this year.
You said you did professional development on Flamingo?
Yeah, we did some at the beginning of the year, and then we had one. So we'll continue to work on that. As principal at middle school, my goal is to collaborate with all educators and foster a positive learning environment that builds upon students' strengths and addresses their needs, ensuring growth for every student. Thank you for your time. Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you. Huh? 258 days.
All right, next up, Mr. Summers.
All right, so good evening. How's everyone doing today? Awesome. So Penn Hills Elementary School beginning of the year assessment data. There we go. So participation, each grade met 95 participation requirement. I think our lowest was at 97%. So every single, kid was taking these tests. So we did a good job there. The testing took place from September 2nd through the 12th with makeups on the 15th and 16th. Our strengths, we had a strong focus on completing the tests. We worked as grade level teams in order to make sure that all students completed the necessary testing. So if they weren't working well for one teacher, another teacher pulled that student to make sure that they completed the test to see where they started the year. Challenges, we had elementary had iPads, so it was a challenge to get the technology working correctly those first couple of days, but it really didn't have an effect on our participation rate. The tech department did a great job of getting all these issues fixed on the new student devices. The only thing that was an issue was new students starting a little bit later. They didn't have the device in hand, so they couldn't take the test at the beginning of the year. We did have them take the test, it just didn't count as our participation. So our participation rate did not have gaps at the grade level, but certain teachers had less students participate due to absences during the testing window. Our proficiency data for the beginning of the year. So in kindergarten, 49% were proficient in early literacy, and that's the only test that they take. First grade, we had 29% on the STAR test for ELA and 28% for math. Second grade was 41% for ELA and 34% proficient for math. Third grade was 39% proficient for ELA and 26% for math. Once again, fourth was 33 and 24, and fifth was 38 and 24. And then our CDT scores averaged right around 25, 24, 26, and 25%.
What's your benchmark?
Benchmark is STAR.
No, I mean, like, so what percentage are you looking to get to?
So if we look at an MTSS triangle, our tier 1, we want to be at 80%.
Tier 1 is at 80%?
Tier 1's 80%, 15%, 5%. It's where we want to be.
Tier 2 is what?
Tier 2 is 15. 15% should be on tier 2, 5% should be working in tier 3.
5%.
So if this is like first grade, 29%, does that mean, what they should be by the end of?
No, we want that, I mean, the goal is for everybody to be proficient, you know what I mean? But 80% would be us hitting a tier 1 goal through like the MTSS framework
That's by the end of the year?
by the end of the year.
By the end of
And this is just working through.
So
like,
now you have 29%.
Right now, we're at 29% proficient. But this was their first time, this was their first time taking that test. Yes.
Chris, explain the process that we implemented with meeting with individual teachers,
Yeah, so-
looking at how we're going to grow these numbers, knowing each student, then your team level.
Okay, so what we did at the beginning of the year, as soon as we took these tests, we met individually with teachers and went over specific skills that their students are lacking. So that we had, for instance, first grade letter sound was a big deal. So right now in their intervention groups, they're going to be split between 3 groups, like a low, a medium, and a high. And they're going to be working on individual targeted skills during that 45-minute intervention period. And they're always flexible. So as soon as they reach that goal, they'll go to a different group and be higher. So that's always our plan, is to make sure that they're growing. The reading specialists always will be like seeing a group of kids. Special education teachers are seeing a group of kids, and then we have 3 teachers in an intervention group, so they can split those kids accordingly in order to, allow those kids the best chance to grow. And that includes like our lowest to our highest kids. Those kids that are already in green and are already meeting the goals, we want to continue to improve their scores as well. So we're just not letting that behind.
Sorry, I have a question. So do parents get a notification where their child is at proficiency-wise after they take the test?
They have STAR reports, yeah.
The STAR reports?
Now, STAR, all it is STAR is an indicator of how we feel they're going to do on the PSSA test or a state assessment. So, if you look at third grade right now, we feel pretty comfortable, 39% of our kids in ELA would score proficient or advanced. However, we're having these meetings again in November, again in February, again at another date. So that 39 better go to 45, or we're stagnant. We're not growing more kids. So we got to continue to track that, and that's what the next update will be. This is the beginning of the year. You're going to get as a board a middle of the year update, where we'll be able to show you if we are making gains.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you're talking about intervention groups and letter sounds in first grade, which my daughter is a first grader who has to work on letter sounds and reading. So my daughter's teacher said, work on reading. So we're work on reading every night. We have a bingo card to make reading fun. So, like, how are you engaging every parent on those targeted goals? I heard you're engaging the teachers in the intervention groups, but the one-on-one for parents to work at home.
That's what the teachers will combine, we'll talk to parents. I know with reading specialists, they always send stuff home. Teachers should be sending stuff home as well. So like they
Okay.
have their STAR report.
I don't remember seeing the STAR report. That's why I was asking about it, but I'll take a look for it.
Yep.
Okay,
But yeah, there's a STAR like family report that we send out,
okay.
and that goes through everything.
All right, what was your question?
So how you're using like AI with like Comingo? Are you guys using that in elementary for like math?
We're not using
Okay.
AI.
Okay.
What do you tell them?
So for ELA, we have our targeted skills. That's
But
like our
what are we-
interventions with reading specialists. They're doing like,
Okay.
it's not, we're not doing AI in elementary school after.
No, I mean, I shouldn't say AI, but I mean like those tools that like fill in the gaps, like Lexia and stuff like that, that fill in the gaps.
Yeah, we still,
for
we still use
students.
IXL at the elementary school.
Okay.
We still use those programs as well. It's just different technology based on their age compared to, middle school.
Gotcha. But there is something happening.
Absolutely,
This is the first year we've done math.
yes, and that's
So
coming up.
this is-
So, for our proficiency data, once again, strengths was kindergarten early literacy, second grade ELA and math was our highest scoring grade, and they had the lowest slide from 24 to 25. So, from first grade to second grade, not a lot of people like slid, it was only like 2%. So building on our foundational skills in K-1 is improving our scores in general. Challenges, once again, our math scores are significantly lower than ELA, possibly due to lack of intervention specialists. And the new science test for fifth grade, benchmark scores for science in 3 to 5, average 25%. So our instructional adjustments, so we added a math intervention period, which is 30 to 45 minutes daily in grades 4 and 5, 2 to 3 times a week, which would be 30 to 45 minutes in K to 3. And that's for small group targeted instruction. So they're still doing the same thing that we used to do in reading all the time, but we're gonna start that math daily or 2 to 3 times a week. Direct targeted instruction, and then the other groups working on, like fracs, reflex, which is just fractions, math facts in order to build those foundational skills.
Teachers are doing this,
Teachers are
providing
doing
an
this. Yep.
intervention?
Yes. Grouping during reading intervention in order to make sure students are all growing, we previously talked about that. Our tier 2 targeted interventions, once again, we're doing partner reading in grades 3 to 5 to help with oral reading fluency, pushing supports by reading specialists to coaching model to help facilitate the correct use of our foundational curriculum. And then we have our small group 4 to 1, 5 to 1 teacher, or 5 to 1 student to teacher ratio to focus on those skills that we're learning. And then we also have, obviously, technology to support our students.
So because we've seen that the reading specialists, especially in the elementary school, have been a significant help to our students in increasing their proficiency, at what point will we look at increasing and having an additional math specialist, since we know that's where our biggest deficit is? Oh, Sandy's coming back to be the math.
Ready?
I would do that. But I think that's a serious conversation
Yeah.
that needs to be had, since we continue to see
Yeah.
that big deficit in math and the growth in the students, is that we have to invest in. Just like we did, we saw that worked. That worked for our students. Students are growing.
Yeah.
We've got to do the same thing in math, because that trickles up. I saw that in the middle school, algebraic expressions and things was a challenge for our students. So if we can start getting those skills, I know even in 5th and 6th grade, students are still struggling with like math facts and things like that. So we got to have a serious conversation about
We
putting
do.
in a math specialist at the elementary level.
We have a math coach, and we have,
Yeah,
we started
in the middle.
intervention this year for math as well.
But I mean in the elementary.
Yeah, I know.
So like we have a focus
We
in
haven't
middle,
had-
but we see
didn't
in
have it
elementary.
either in middle school until this year.
This is the first year.
Yes, for math.
Yeah, we need to do something about that.
We
So
just have to
next-
have the money to support it.
I'm not a math teacher.
Next steps, we're gonna do middle of the year testings to be completed between November 3rd and 14th. Principals will hold 1 to 2 progress tracks with intervention groups during the month of October and beginning of November before the testing window closes. During those checks, we're gonna be, completing walkthroughs during intervention classes to check for targeted instruction, during ELA math and science classes to check for proper implementation of district curriculum. Those progress checks allow us to see, are the students growing? Do we need to change, courses in, curriculum in these targeted skills in order to make sure that people are growing? And then obviously success is going to be measured by grade level and individual student growth. If students aren't growing, adjustments to targeted instruction will be made at progress meetings with intervention groups.
How much teaching do we do around how to take the test?
We never want to teach toward a test. We want to obviously give them foundational skills in order to help them perform well on the test. But we do have like, we have a couple teachers going to like the online, tools course at the AIU, so that they are familiar with those things, so that they can teach them how to properly, take the test online, because that is going to be something new for them. But we teach the standards that are on the PSSA tests. We're not going to, teach how to take a test. You know what I mean?
But they have to be ready, and here's the reason why. Across the state, districts that went from paper and pencil to online dipped 7%. So we got some work to do. It's a big adjustment, but they're practicing, and like Sandy had mentioned, they're already looking at the tools. Chris has sample questions that he created with his teachers that give online versions, so it's just, high school's ready. High school's been doing it,
Canvas, they have like which is our online tool we use for like online. We can put like a paragraph or, a reading passage on one side and the questions on the right, so it mimics what the PSSA will look like, so they're getting used to that.
Well,
How are parents incorporated in this whole process, so that they can also help them learn when they need to, or when they have time?
Right.
Or, how do you reach out to parents so that they understand what's going on and that they can help improve?
Absolutely, and, we do that, like, our teachers are always, we use Class Dojo a lot at the elementary school. We're always sending things home, extra practice, extra support for them to do, and hopefully.
sorry, no, I was just talking about Class Dojo before this with Nicole. She didn't know about it. That we launched it anywhere.
It's not a requirement at the elementary school, but a lot of teachers have jumped on board with it to, get all that thing.
Yeah, because we have 100% parent participation in
Yeah.
our class in first grade, but, and I think it's a great tool to utilize.
Chris, will they share this data on conference day? Like she said she didn't
Yes,
get it.
well, yeah, yes.
They'll share.
And we haven't had that day yet,
That's coming
so,
in 2 weeks.
November, they
Okay.
always- They share that data, they have
Okay.
like, the sheets to go home as well. Like
Mhm.
if the teacher didn't previously send them home, they'll be there
Okay.
at the data, so they can go over like the beginning of the year testing and things like that. Whenever we do have like meetings and everything with parents, we always bring up scores. So as like administration and things like that, we bring up scores, we talk to them where they're going. If at any time students are struggling like in the classroom, we always make phone calls out to go over everything.
I-
All right, we have a team from the high school. So we'll talk to Ms. Morset and Dr. McCoy.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. McCoy, James McCoy, and nice to meet you all. And did want to mention, we do have public speaking at the high school level as a course, and so I'm hoping we do get a debate club going, because I've worked in schools where it's really engaging for the kids. So. Sorry. Yeah, for sure. Good one.
Sure. Hi, Dr. Wolfson, last one.
Ms. Dorset.
So, going to talk about testing, where we were, where we are right now, and where we're going forward. So, participation, certainly a few different things that factored into this, and a lot of room for growth there. I'd say the big thing is kind of getting an earlier jump on things, because our testing was really towards the back half of the window, from the 9th to the 12th. So really having all our preparation done beforehand to start earlier with the kids. There's some other things that came into play, especially with the 9th graders. Still getting an influx of kids at that time while testing was going on, and kind of meeting their technology needs. But some of the big things were also around our cyber synchronous kids, making sure they're engaging in the exam as well, because they fall into those numbers also. And then our chronically absent kids, and making sure they're engaging in the test as well. So a lot of room for growth here, but I think we certainly learned some lessons during this first round, and have some plans for improvement for the next couple of rounds. As far as the numbers, it's broken down a little differently at the high school level by subject, as you can see on here. So again, a lot of room for growth, but I'm not, a lot of this is the purpose of having a CBT at the beginning of the year is to see where they end up. So a lot of the material for content isn't necessarily things that they've learned yet. For example, I know I've been working closely with the algebra teachers, And as far as like inequalities and linear equations, they did better on those because that's an area where we know it was covered to some degree even at the 8th grade level. So, but for example, data analysis, it was on the CDTs, but it hasn't been taught yet. That won't be taught for a little bit down the line. So we'll certainly be looking for that growth. And while we have shown growth in other areas, you'll see shortly, certainly a lot of room for growth here, but this is data that we've been using to meet with our teachers and obviously individualized plans for the students based on that data.
Well, I have
Sure.
I have a question, because I see honors algebra 2, does that mean 21% of the students are proficient?
In the green, like that's the proficiency area. we're
That's a
looking-
proficiency area, but they're honors algebra 2.
Correct.
What's the blue, green, or
And
red?
honors geometry, nobody's proficient?
On this first CDT. And again, I think, because a lot of the, yeah, and I mean, a lot of the material for the CDTs, when it comes down to content as opposed to like, isn't necessarily covered yet. So we're certainly
Okay.
got a lot of room to go.
Okay.
I always have a question about who gets into honors, and Renell should maybe be able to answer that, because I know with the football players, and I see their grades on a weekly basis, and there are many kids that are listed taking these honors classes that I really know probably should not be in an honors class. And I think that one of the things, and this is just my presumption, is that I think what they do is more to fill up classes during scheduling as opposed to whether that person should really be in that honors class. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I see that. And I think it's something that we'll maybe ask Renell or ask.
Sure.
But I don't think it's really based on where they are. Where they should be.
In that process, there should be a teacher recommendation to get into an honors too, but that's certainly something we can bring up, yeah.
What is the blue, green?
So the blue is like the advanced level. So-
Higher.
Higher.
So this year, our teacher and team goals are closely related and aligned with both the district and our building priorities. First, our department every department is working toward meeting the 95% CDT participation goal. That's a collective effort. The teachers, the administrators, and the support staff, they're all playing a role in making sure that every student completes the assessment. In addition to participation, our teams are focused on using their common planning periods effectively. That means developing a data-driven action steps, aligning lesson plans to standards, and incorporating differentiated learning activities to meet the needs of all students. So teachers are also collaborating to create common assessments. They're ensuring consistency across the classrooms. We've set a measurable student growth expectation. Our goal is for at least 25% of the students to exceed their beginning of the year CDT scores by the end of the year CDT. And so we're emphasizing fidelity with our learning tools like iExcel and Comingo, and requiring open-ended assessments with the rubrics, at least 2 per quarter, to strengthen critical thinking and writing across the content areas. So now we're going to look at Tier 2 highlights.
Ms. Dorsett, can I add one thing? I just want to make sure the board is aware. What we showed you there, that is the practice test, the first CDT. It's not great whatsoever. Now, again, what I told you earlier, we better, the next time come here, show you we took that 2% and made it 8% to so on. So I just don't want you to think like that's the end of the year assessment. That's the beginning of the year that we.
I think, do we have the data from last year? Because we did the same thing last year. That's it? Or?
This is going to be PBOS. And I think Dr. Mazzocco makes a great point. You have to understand that beginning of the year benchmark when it comes to the CDT test. The CD test is going to self-level itself to ability levels for the kids as they take it. It's essentially like giving them the Keystone exam, or in the case of the elementary schools, that PSSA at the beginning of the year. It's going to give you a model, but what goes even more is that for the teachers, it's going to give each individual kid a diagnostic report so that the teacher can take those particular classes and identify exactly where the struggles are larger, where they're not, items and concepts that kids already know, where they can spend more time or less. So it's, I hate to say it, it's kind of like giving them the end of the year test right there at the beginning of the year when they've started the year. So, and
They
you're,
don't take them seriously.
Exactly.
well, and I think that's one of the biggest goals is trying to get kids to find the key to get them to sit and take that test with fidelity.
Cool.
And those are some motivational strategies.
And that's what, you came from Mount Lebanon, right?
Sure.
Do you teach test-taking skills, like how to, because I have a friend at Fox Chapel, she said they spend 2 weeks just taking the test, and here's how you knock out the wrong answers, and they're just very serious about the test taking.
Sure, and I think you can do that without taking an actual, how to take the test course. I hate the idea of teaching to the test.
I hate it
think-
too, but at the
I
same
think what
time,
happens-
a lot depends on the
Sure,
data.
But it's not really teaching to the test, it's teaching to the standards. And if you're teaching to the standards and you're teaching, instead of teaching the test, one of the things that you can do is ask your teachers to take their classroom assessments and model those classroom assessments in the same manner of what they would see. In my previous school, when we had not done this with CDTs, but one of the things we did was we administrated the CDTs because we were getting ready to move into digital PSSAs and Keystones, which we had never done. So in the CDT was in that format, so we said, let's do this exactly like, instead of doing it in classrooms, let's do it like, make it like a Keystone or make it like a PSSA. And we felt like there was a more serious approach. So there are things you can do in terms of the way you deliver it that might increase that participation that we can certainly look at. But I think when you teach to the standards and you use some of those within, try to embed them in the actual classroom itself, I do think you get a better result that way.
Yeah, like throw some trick questions their way, here's how you have to knock it out, and.
Right. And one of the things.
And that's critical thinking skills. I know it's also, you don't want to teach to the test, but it's also a component of how do you get rid of certain questions and think critically about them. It's not completely useless.
Well, and I can tell you one of the things Dr. Taylor and I had been doing was we're pulling the specific blueprints for the Keystones and how those exams were constructed. As we begin to look at the common planning time with some of those teachers and being able to take the blueprint of Keystone Algebra 1, Keystone Biology, and Keystone Literature and introduce the teachers to those so that the teachers can try to incorporate the elements of those exam blueprints into the way they assess kids in the classroom. So that when our kids, so many times kids learn something and then they go to the test and they say, well, we never learned that. No, you didn't look at it like that, and therefore there was a disconnect. And I think if we can eliminate those, that's almost, it's not teaching the test, but I think you are giving them some test-taking strategies.
And information in a different way that you taught them, and they have to be able to reinterpret it in that way.
Agreed.
So, okay, I like hearing.
So my part, what we want to look at, there's a two-pronged approach. We look at achievement, and that's obviously what we've been talking about. But one of the other things that the state provides for us to measure is growth. And growth sometimes can be an even more important measure because it shows where you move the child from where you get the student from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And when you look at the high school's numbers from last year, they are truly numbers that you can celebrate. I have not seen growth numbers to this extent in any, and these are public. You can go on to the PBUS site, and look at different growth numbers from different districts. And I can assure you these are some of the best growth numbers you will see on any of those. And if you look, that's also for CDT in terms of how the kids, now that's based on CDTs that they took last year. They don't quite have the most current draft in for this year. But it's an absolute celebration to where the high school are growing those kids. PBUS, in short, they talk about growing kids from one year to the next. And what they do is they take whatever the assessment is, PSSA in the middle school, elementary, Keystone exams, and they take their raw score and they convert it into something they call an NCE score. And that gives you a 0 to 99 score for kids that they say you can compare from one test to the other. It's easiest to recognize in the elementary middle because it's, third grade PSSA compared to fourth grade PSSA. And it converts it to that 0 to 9. So if a child gets a raw score that converts to, say, a 72 NCE score, and then the next year they get a raw score that might be different because the test is different, but it converts to a 72 NCE score and it's exactly the same, what that actually says, that number of 0 is actually an excellent number. That is a full year's worth of growth, because what it recognizes is the student performed at the same level on that particular assessment in the year before, or maybe a few years before, because it is predictive a little bit with high school. But they performed at the same level, but you have to realize that the performance is on harder material. So that score of 72 on a 5th grade PSSA and then 72 on a 6th grade PSSA means they are achieving at that same level. What these numbers are meaning is that the kids, if they are scoring an NCE score of 72, they are then the following year coming back with 79, 80, 81, and they are showing significant growth. So what the teachers are doing, whatever action plan steps went into place last year, created exponential growth within the students at the high school. So that's a great number that is out there. So what do we do with that? That's the next question, right? What do we do with that? So we looked at each of the tests, and what this particular report does, and I'll give you the brief. So this is showing the 3 different performance levels. You were asking in the last slide about the blue, the red, the green. So at each of the performance levels, if you look, the 0 across the bottom would be your 1 full year's worth of growth. And in a standard deviation of error, you look, those middle and highest groups, and this would be for the biology test, are still within the standard deviation of showing a full year's worth of growth. But your lowest performing kids on biology, I want you to see what the biology teachers are doing with those students in terms of growth and where they are pushing those kids. So we had a discussion at our last meeting about this on the professional development day, and what this does is informs our bio teachers. They said, look, what we're doing right now with some of our kids coming in with some significant deficits is outstanding. We're going to keep doing that. What it's telling me now is I need to push the rigor with the higher kids. So it becomes, how can we differentiate instruction? That becomes the next discussion in those common planning meetings. So this data driving instruction and curriculum is what's going to lead us to much better information and much better success. That's the biology look. That's the Keystone literature. So literature is a little different. See how that number plays out? Now the lowest achievers are still achieving more than a full year's worth of growth, but they are giving the highest performers to knock it out. So maybe we would be looking at using something like IXL or one of those other adaptive programs that you were talking about earlier to fill in gaps for our lowest achieving students to try to push their reading levels, so then they have a different approach than our science teachers do. I missed one in there somewhere. There it was, the Algebra 1. And the Algebra 1 looks similar to the bio. Algebra 1 teachers are knocking it out of the park with the kids that are coming in with significant deficits. So, absolutely in the middle group, and you can actually see that the number of kids in each of those groups is actually on the bottom there in the student count. So you're looking, in terms of how many kids they're moving, but growth average of over about 5 NCE points for the lowest performing group. So, kudos to the teachers in everything they have done at the high school, because when you get to high school, you have the kids coming to you with what they have. And if you can take them and demonstrate through this how far you've pushed them, you've done an exceptional job.
As you see, we are analyzing our data, and not just among our administrators, but with our teachers. Our teachers are going to use common planning time to make target instructional adjustments. In our Keystone subjects especially, teachers are working together to develop common assessments that reflect rigor and standards of the state exams. The collaboration ensures fidelity and equity between classrooms teaching the same course. So from an administrative standpoint, the 4 of us, we're doing walkthroughs and we're focusing on the Danielson framework that you see right here, particularly in these domains that drive student engagement and effective instruction. We're looking at designing instruction, coherent instruction, organizing physical space, questioning and discussion techniques, engaging students in learning, and using assessment in instruction. So we're also incorporating motivation theory, meaning we're intentionally celebrating student progress and effort to help students make testing and take it more seriously and feel a sense of accomplishment. So the goal is to build intrinsic motivation around both CBT and classroom performance. So looking ahead, our focus is on providing consistent support and follow through on the practices that drive student growth. We're continuing data meetings within departments to monitor progress and identify students who need Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 support. So teachers are refining interventions based on CDT and classroom data. Using our technology skills, tools like IXL, Conmingo, and other digital supports with fidelity to reinforce key skills. So we're also emphasizing collaborative planning so teachers can share strategies and resources that are working in their classrooms. They're going to assess data to inform instruction and to analyze student performance. And so finally, we're going to track progress toward that measurable goal. That 25% of students exceed their beginning of the year CDT by the end of the year, and ensuring we see data-driven evidence of student growth across all content areas. That is the end. Questions?
Dr. Mazzocco? Excuse me a second. Can I say a couple things? First of all, I want to thank Dr. Mazzocco because he invited me to the meetings where the principals were giving us a preview of what's going to happen here tonight. And in those meetings, there was a component that they talked about that they share in-house, that they can't share with the board or with the public. All the data and the numbers that they talk to you about, all the expressions about check-ins and walkthroughs and data and stuff, Dr. Mazzocco asked the questions, and Rennell, who are the names and the faces and the places for all those students who aren't where they need to be? And every teacher knows who those children are in their class. They got a name, they got a face, they know what period they have them, they know what their strengths and weaknesses are, and they have forms that they fill out that say, I'm going to do this intervention with these children. I'm going to do an intervention with this child. I'm going to do an intervention with that child on Tier 1. And if they don't work, then I know that I can push them to Tier 2. So what I wanted to tell you is I was extremely impressed with the level of detail, that we're not just talking about numbers and anchors and testing skills and all those things. We're talking about kids in your class that you're going to be held responsible and accountable for growing them. That's the missing component that you didn't see tonight, but it's all part of their plan, because when we meet with them, I'm understanding at the mid-year report, they'll have those lists. Okay, who grew and who didn't grow, and why, what worked, what didn't work, and how can you share it with each other? So I wanted to share that too, because I was extremely impressed with the personalized approach that we're taking. I think, at least since I've been there for 6 years, the first time in 6 years where we have names and faces and places and people were saying, this is what we did, this worked, this didn't work. So I wanted to commend Dr. Mazzocco on running those meetings with Rennell, with these principals, because they did a heck of a job whenever we met with the main principals. And I just felt like the board needs to know that this is even more detailed than what you're hearing tonight.
Well, that's because we host people.
Yeah, yeah. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, just on that note, you know all the students, do you know all the parents too? How are we engaging parents? It's just a constant question in my mind to make sure that we're helping out outside of here.
I would say hopefully, that's happening, and I'm sure it is in some classrooms, probably not across the board. November 4th is a big day for us with the parent-teacher conferences to get information, give strategies to parents. We have to get parents on board, with Conmigo. Any kid could use it at home. It's a tool. If it's for kids that need remediation, it's also for kids getting ready to prep for their SAT that they can go on. It's free and can take them places that some of our staff cannot. And I'll say one final word. We have to get to a point, and I brought this up to Kristen this week. We're gonna, and I brought this to the board earlier. I want to get off the ground where we parents empower parents, where we have the parents in this district that are doing great things that can share what's working in their homes. Because sometimes parents, they're tired of listening to the same people, the administrators and so on. What are some real world things that are happening? Maybe it will work, maybe it won't, but we're going to try. And, so that's something that's coming up too. But please, questions.
And I've mentioned that to you before too, like my child had special needs and she had a one-on-one tech working with her where she was able to graduate out essentially of services because she was doing so well. And so many parents are not aware even that they can get a free tech provided to them by the state to help out in the school and at home and teach them skills on how to best educate their child. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to be educating parents on, and I think that's great. Empowering parents. PEP. Is that what it's going to be called, PEP?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I love it. It's a great idea.
All right, next up is my section of pupil services. First, letter A, renewal committee for the second step. We want to renew this license for K to 8. That is used by the school counselors. It's a social emotional learning curriculum. Second up is reinitiating the partnership with Breathe Pennsylvania. This is an asthma awareness initiative. It helps to support those students identified with asthma. Free program, free resources for those students and their families. The next one, letter C, is bringing Gwen's Girls back to the Penn Hill School District. It had a lot of positive motivation and praise and have been requested by many of our staff to come back. So we are going to bring them back in at no cost for the middle school and high school, starting as soon as you approve it. Letter D, we have the renewal of the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, which we do every year. So they're in the process of finding bigs at the high school and connecting with the littles at the elementary.
Preston Ridge, are they coming back November 1st or the?
Presley Ridge, right now, we received word from Allegheny County that everything looks good with the state. So Allegheny County is connecting with Presley Ridge to start the process. We're hoping mid-November.
Mid-November.
Yeah, hopefully. I just heard from Roseanne from the county, and they're, in that process of doing that. So that's
Elementary.
replacing Cool Zone in the elementary. At the elementary.
Now, without replacing Cool Zone, will that be open to all students that need that service or only students that, because I know Cool Zone was not necessarily accessible to all students, even if they needed the service.
So there is still an element of that IBHS programming that looks at the insurance piece. That's
How
where.
can we get out of that?
Well, that's where Pittsburgh Mercy comes in.
Okay,
They
so
see
Pittsburgh
all-
Mercy
yep,
is
they're
in
seeing
elementary
everybody.
too?
Yep,
Okay.
Pittsburgh Mercy's across the board. That's
Awesome.
already active. There are a little bit of those numbers will be shared on our dashboards as we continue throughout the year with them. So we're looking at multiple layers of mental health supports. Okay? All right, Ms. Biancanello is up with the special education section.
Hello. Just a couple things. Just two things today. The approval of our Amerikey placement for the upcoming school year, and also for our Achieva rehab services, which we use for our speech to supplement overflow students. And we do have a speech therapist going out on maternity leave this year, so they'll also provide the sub for that. That's it.
What is Mary?
It's a placement.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, next up, conference request. We have one from Brianna York. This conference request is actually tied to some of the field trips she has listed, which goes into number 6, field trips. Quite a number of them. Remember that we approved them in September, October, and then again in the second half of the school year. Some of these are for the first half and some are for all year. We are asking, there are 2 that need to be ratified because they will occur before the school board meeting at the end of the month.
Is there a reason why we only see field trips for like students, for gifted students? Like, do we not do field trips for like? I'm talking about what is actually being submitted. So, and I've seen this last year as well. So, is there opportunities for students in the elementary school to go on field trips, like for science students, history students, like general ed students? that may not be an honor student or within a bowl or within the band or theater?
Yeah.
Like, what are some outside of school learning opportunities for students?
Well, if we look down through here, you see that there are some, Anna Mariana is taking the ESL students. We have the music and theater.
But
Matt
that's a
Hur-
specialized group of students. I'm talking
Right.
about just like, that's.
General.
I'm talking about
So
just regular
PBIS,
students. There's a history, that photography is showing down at the, is it at the Heinz, it's like, are the history class going? Like,
Is trade union on here on
Yep.
October 30th?
Yeah, we have the trade union that is open to middle school, high school. Just talked to Dr. McCoy a little bit about that this evening, trying to we are trying to broaden that scope. I think you see a lot from the gifted coordinator because she is mapping out the whole year.
And
Right.
it's K through 12.
And
She
that
does,
that makes sense, but I'm saying like, where's the third grade field trip? Where's
Yeah.
the trip to the pumpkin patch? Where's the trip to the apple farm? Like, yeah, where are those type of field trips? And how do we engage the administration and teachers and stuff to?
And it's free.
Yeah, I think, if, just letting them know too, that we're open to support that is a big deal. Because I know there was a point where funding or, was through COVID, there was a decline of sending students out. And so now it's that uptick again. Like I can speak for the elementary, that the PTO did a lot of planning for field trips. And so, those are conversations that can be revived,
Well, yeah, speaking of the PTO, and I'm the PTO secretary now, but we do have a full board now as of the last meeting. But one of the things that came up at the first meeting was from parents, how could I get involved? How can we do more field trips? The answer was we need volunteers and we need volunteer clearances. So it's a multifaceted issue. One, you need funding for buses. It may be free to go to the museum because we're Title I. We can get tickets for kids for free from different nonprofit programs. We need to pay for busing. You need to get,
I see there's stipends and
Yes,
subsidies
there's some-
for transportation.
Yeah, sometimes they'll work out deals with us. Back in the day, we used to get them to go for free.
with the busing included
Yeah,
from the Carnegie Museums, they pay for them.
yeah.
There's
A lot of, I mean, the
transportation
old
subsidies.
school PTO funded a lot of like the buses
Exactly.
and so, you can get the free admission, but the busing was the cost. And so PTO can support that, well,
So they had a lot of money back then.
But you can't say like for parents, $5 for the.
Right.
I'm sure you can. I think.
But it's something that you have to plan for, and then the field trip request process in and of itself, which I know I've said multiple times, is very kind of burdensome. You have to fill out a paper form, and then your plans may change, and you have to only do it twice a year, right? Like right now and then later.
Flexible.
Sure,
She's flexible to that, yeah.
But the teachers have to know that there's flexibility because they are not aware that there's any flexibility. So they have to have everything planned out in advance with costs, it's a lot
Well, there's
of,
a process, but I think the principals could toss out to the faculty, just, if anybody has interest, like, let us know. We'll look at it, we'll see if it's worthwhile, and like.
I think about our elementary school kids,
Yeah, get
like
them
give
out
them
there,
some
yeah,
out of school learning,
Yeah.
hands-on.
Yeah.
It just creates it for some students that are not maybe, book, computer, like just that get some
Or
of that
don't have that
hands-on learning.
experience.
It's just a great opportunity, yeah, for exposure.
I think a lot of it happened in COVID, that they lost their way, so now we need to get back into doing it again.
well,
But we also have to have PTA and PTO look to see where they can get the funds and that, because they had a lot of money back then. A lot.
Collaborative efforts, that, there's some free things that there are things that cost.
well, and Christ said they would donate some buses too. But again, we have to collaborate, and I think the process has to, maybe if it could be a different process, because like you said, pumpkin patch, lots of kids are going to pumpkin patches right now. I asked the same question, why aren't we doing a pumpkin patch? Yes,
Propel's going, they go everywhere.
Yeah.
we need a template and we need a process.
They do, or the parent has to bring $12.
Exactly right. Yeah. What else, Bruce?
Okay, so then we're moving into Renell section curriculum. So the next four agenda items are really renewals of the non-public service agreements, the non-pub schools. That's all through Title I. The only one that's new is the Catapult Learning Agreement with Mother of Sorrows. That's one you've not seen before. Then we go into grants, donations, and fundraisers. We have one request to approve some donations from the Pittsburgh Penguin Foundation for the elementary for hockey equipment. The cost is $750. We've done it before. They're going to do it again. Moving into the last discussion item. Discussion items include our academic and student services dashboards. We want to share the first drafts of these two dashboards for the 25-26 school year, giving you the preview of what that looks like. You should all have access to that. And so, I'm not sure how much you want me to talk through some of this. I know that you have, these are very similar looking to last year, so you're looking at summary scores there from PSSA and Keystones. You can look if you want to, Russ. And then adding on, this is also additional state assessment data thrown on that PVOS and Keystone information that looks so pretty in blue. Go ahead, Russ. This is going into our local assessments, so what Mr. Sense was talking about, the elementary and Mrs. Barker at the middle school. This is your STAR, reading and math. Go ahead. Then moving into the CBT. Keep going. This is advanced placement information, total AP students. You can see the growth through the years. That's a little bit more longitudinal. Kids currently enrolled in AP courses. Go ahead, Rob.
Now, the 297 there, that's not 297 different people. There could be some overlap of some taking different classes, different AP classes, right?
I would think so. Yeah, I think. That makes sense. The dual enrollment dashboard, they're still waiting for some information. The enrollment's still open with Seton Hill and La Roche. So Mr. Dervanic has populated the Pitt AP psychology course there with 25 students enrolled. Then the Forge enrollments for grades 10 to 12. And there are 4 classes that they're offering there. And one more maybe, Russ? And then looking at graduation information. So 94% of students walked across the stage there, with 2% finishing up in the summer. And then post-high school plans, that's derived from a student survey. Okay. Anything else? Then the next one was the student services dashboard. That's the dashboard that I monitor. Similar looks to last year with some information. First one starting with attendance. We did something unique here. We're underlaying last year's attendance. So you see that the light lines going through. That's going to be a reflective, so that you can see last year to this year. Go ahead, Russ. Reportable offenses and the students' dashboard. This is also going to reflect 24-25 data on the left, right after the month. The next column are the totals from last year, just keeping the totals in there. Go ahead. New directions, yet team mediations we've added on this year as part of our restorative practices. We should be looking at that data as well. We did collect it, but we're just collecting in a different fashion and reporting out this year. And so this is where one of the newer things, one of the requests kind of from the board in discussions where, our student assistance team has been renamed. It's called the Penn Health Intervention and Resource Support Team, and that team meets weekly. It is fully, everybody's intentional at the table with our student service team, administrators, and our outside support professionals that come in to help to support students. When at Tier 1, there's a teacher, a staff member, somebody saying a child needs extra help. So in each of the buildings, we're talking about those students that need the extra help with intention, and we want to make sure that we're aligning them to appropriate resources. So right now, these are just baseline referrals. You can see we've been pretty busy in each of the buildings. And the next slide is more to come. You'll start to see what services are in play, like Pittsburgh Mercy, or if they're going to Allegheny Children's Initiative and getting some support there. We'll map out when Presley Ridge comes into play, and any other services that we continue to see, you'll be able to see. One thing to be mindful of, something that you might be thinking, oh, I don't see as detailed numbers anymore, but one of the feedback points we have from the state that we have to be really mindful of on the student service dashboard is, we're talking about some really, confidential information. So we've kind of removed the little numbers and we're just totaling. You'll still see the colored bars, but we don't want to report numbers that are too small and have, somebody try to figure out who that child is. And the state really said don't report anything under 5, but just because of the sensitive nature of student services and those supports, you won't see detailed numbers. We can always, for public review, Any questions? Okay. Last two items then are just an FYI. The Pittsburgh Pirates are taking over gym classes at the elementary on November 6th in grades 3 to 5 for some wiffle ball action to get kids excited and engaged in baseball and softball. And the very last item is we revised the date for the PSATs at the high school.
So with that, and you brought up the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes.
How about trying to work something out so our kids can go to a Pirate afternoon game as part of a field trip next year?
Sure.
We have to increase their all-around education. So if they're not exposed to things, and all they see is people in the same classroom every day doing the curriculum, and I understand that some of it is parent responsibility, but you're here with us probably more than they want to see their parents and how it counts. We have to get the exposure. We should be looking for field trips and other things that kids can develop and
And
grow.
Doc and I know somebody that could get us probably tickets for that thing for other kids.
Yeah. When they come in, pick them up.
So we need to be able to let the teachers know that they can look for things, they can look for activities. They can
Yes.
go to the Children's Museum, they can go to the different theaters where other kids or other schools take the kids.
Sure, they can submit a proposal, we look at it and see what works.
I want to look into the hip hop festival.
Fifth grade used to always go to Washington DC.
But that was we didn't, it wasn't school, we just had to pay everything our own, we did everything on our own.
The August Wilson there.
Go to the museums where they close.
Oh, yeah.
I know second grade was, we did the symphony, always in second grade. There was the same field trips.
Also, we had a fundraiser.
Right,
A lot of those field trips did close through COVID and didn't
right, and
all
never
last.
came back, exactly. And you know why we do the field trips twice, we were not getting them in a timely manner. This is forcing them to get them to
Well,
us.
that's a good
Because
thing.
like I got one today, but it'll go on HR next
We've
week.
had people reach
You know,
out to us
so-
and want to do it, and we didn't follow through, or it was a no. So
No,
it
it's-
can't happen anymore.
no, it's-
We need to move forward and have our kids think.
Well,
I totally agree.
so who's responsible for that process and for carrying this out going forward? Is it you? Is it Rennell? Is it the building principal?
You talk about field trips?
Yes.
Teachers and the building principals.
Teachers should recommend
Teachers,
if they want.
they give it to the building principal, and then it comes to us.
Well, depending on if it's a student service related, they usually come through me. If it's a more academic teacher, we're not.
So if we wanted to go to the Pirates, it would go through you, and if it was through Rennell.
Yeah, because it would be like,
If it's a science center, it'd probably go through.
So is this something that we could get, like an electronic submission that would flow to Rennell for approval?
It has to go through the building principal.
Well, and the principal, but like a process that shows Rennell signs off.
And then it comes to us.
Yeah, here's the cost.
It's send
Okay.
it to you, type right in it.
You manage all of that, don't you?
I mean, the electronic.
Yeah, I can send it to you,
I truly think it's a matter of.
it's in a Word document, you can just type right in it.
Well, I'm saying from a tracking, because it has to go through an approval process.
The teacher asks for it, we send them the form, or the forms are at every school. They fill it out, they get a transportation request. Everyone knows how much buses are, every year it goes up. And they
If you
fill
can
it
send out
if they
the-
need a sub, how much subs are, everything has to be in there. Goes to the principals,
Yeah.
they approve it, and it sends it to us, so.
See you guys.
Okay, 7:16,
Like
thank
10
you,
minutes ago.
thank you.